Hello everyone. So this video were dedicated for our final project about final work course of theory of culture. In this video there are 3 questions that we will answer about. The first, what material is obtained during the course of culture theory? Second, what are the lessons learned from the course of culture theory? Third, what are the next activity that we will carry out after knowing or getting lesson from culture theory? First question, what material is obtained during the course of culture theory? British Culture Studies, mid-8. The field generally known as British Culture Studies has become one of the dominant players in contemporary culture theory. It is so powerful that when some people speak of culture study, they often implicitly refer to this area and its progeny. The distinctive intellectual approach of British culture studies has slowly evolved over the years. This was became local, personal, and communal way of life that could be found in working men's club, the style of singing, the brass band, the older types of magazine, the closed group games like darts and dominoes. The production and reception of culture, mid-9. A large proportion of this book is dedicated to the exploration of rather abstract theories about culture by philosophically inclined theorists. In this brief chapter, we look at the different, perhaps less visionary literature that understand culture as something very concrete that is produced and consumed. Theoretical interest in the production and reception of culture can be traced back to communication research in the middle decades of 20th century. Communication is commonly seen as a process involving a sender, a receiver, and a message. Theory Marxist and Neo-Marxist, mid-10. This theory understanding Karl Marx's view. Initially, Marx compiled a large theory related to economic system, social system, and otherwise. Marxism is a protest from Marx against capitalism. It assumed that capitalism collects all the money at the expense of the proletariat for the bourgeois. The post-structural turn, mid-11. Notwithstanding the continuing and important work of Levi-Strauss during the 1960s, and perhaps because of the theoretical innovation of Batters, the decade saw structuralism slowly replaced by structuralism as the dominant paradigm in French culture theory. The 1970s and 1980s saw this never understanding of culture move into the Anglophone nation. While much is said about structuralism and post-structuralism, drawing boundary line between them is a somewhat arbitrary task. Culture, structure, and agency, 3 attempts at synthesis. The relationship between system of meaning and human action has long been a theme in culture theory. As we have seen in all the previous chapters, every theory must take up a position on this issue. The French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu is arguably the most important figure in culture theory and culture research today. While the intellectual quality of his talk is one significant factor in accounting for this status, the ability of his work to appeal to diverse audiences is equally crucial. While with Bourdieu there is something for nearly for everyone. Culture as text, narrative, and hermeneutics. For the most part, the analysis of narrative has been an activity of literary theorists interested in the study of text. The field has a lot to say about culture content and with its robust and structural models. It provides a basis for theorizing the autonomy of culture form. There is, however, another more sociological literature on narrative. Psychoanalytic approach to culture and the self. The relationship between culture theory and psychoanalytic theory is a complex one. There are clear affinity in as far as both see social life as necessarily both meaning and emphasize the need for interpretation. This work has now reached a stage where it sometimes seems impossible to delineate certain psychoanalytic theory from culture theory more broadly conceived. Before we can discuss this more recent theory, we need first to review the work of the founder of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud. the culture analysis of postmodernism and postmodernity. The field in which the concept of the postmodern first came to be firmly established was that of architecture, as debate about architecture have long held a central place in the discussion on postmodernism among cultural theories as well as architects and planners. Some familiarity with such issue is required. What are the lessons learned from the course of cultural theory? From every chapter that we have already learned, each chapter have their own lesson learned. Like this in Mid 8, we learned that British culture study against such academic formalism and Spartanism. Culture study insists that culture must be investigated within the social relation and system which it is produced and concept, and that analysis of culture is thus intimately bound up with the study of society, politics, and economic. Mid 9, we'll learn about the production and reception of culture, and the lesson learned I got in this chapter is that I have a knowledge now about the production and reception of culture, and also we explored the point and links of the culture diamond. Having already examined cultural object and social meaning and the collective creation of those objects, like the study of media effect, contemporary work on the reception of culture and the production of culture. Mid 10, we'll learn about theory Marxism and neo-Marxism, and the lesson learned I got in this chapter is about how critical Karl Marx as the expert of this theory and how his theory can be a worldwide and hit for every theory that we learn until now. Mid 11, we learn about the structural tone, and the lesson learned that I got in this chapter is thinking propose a more complex and dynamic relationship between the methods and the techniques that scientists, policy makers, and academics use to describe the world and how the world is. Mid 12, we learn about culture, structure, and agency, three attempts at synthesis. And the lesson learned that I got in this chapter is that finally I have a knowledge now about three attempts at synthesis that brought by the three different experts, and also I can explore the main point from every theory. In Mid 13, we learn about culture as text, narrative, and hermeneutics, and the lesson learned I can get from the material is one of the most important features of the narrative turn in both theoretical discourse and fiction. Is a new way of emphasizing the temporal and mediate character of the process in which objects interpret their experience and become who they are. Mid 14, we learn about the psychoanalytic approach to culture and the self, and the lesson learned I can get from the material is a psychoanalytic theory postulates a multitude of different change mechanisms and a host of new ways of conceptualizing the change process continue to emerge. A psychoanalytic theory themselves evolve and proliferate. The last, Mid 15, we learn about the culture analysis of postmodernism and postmodernity, and the lesson learned I can get from the material is postmodernists claim that it is impossible for anyone to have objective and neutral knowledge of another culture. This view comes from the notion that we all interpret the world around us in our own way, according to our language, cultural background, and personal experience. In other words, everybody has their own view based on his or her social and personal context. What are the next activities that we will carry out after knowing or getting lessons from culture theory? The next activity that I'm going to do after learn and got the lesson is that I'm going to study and relearn more deeply about each material and theory that we studied previously, looking for and trying to relate it to what is currently happening, both in society or individually, as culture in art or culture in society, and more commonly used. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you guys in the next semester. Bye!